Hello and welcome to my webinar today on the 11 must-haves for health sector paid media campaigns. Now, just before we get going, if you have any technical issues connecting to this webinar, so maybe if you can't hear or see me, please just drop a little note in the chat and we'll see what we can do to try and resolve that. But otherwise, I'll assume that you can hear and see me and we will make a start. So just as we get going, just wanted to give you a little introduction to myself if you haven't come across me or Webbox before. So my name is Will. I'm the managing director of a digital agency called Webbox. I founded Webbox 16 years ago with the aim to reposition a digital agency as a partner, putting proactive support at the heart of what we do. Now, to give you a flavour of the breadth of our experience within the health sector, we've worked with the likes of NHS Wales, BBI Solutions, BioHit Healthcare, St John Ambulance, the British Association of Counselling and Psychotherapy, British Orthodontic Society and Voyage Care, just to give you a flavour of the breadth. And what we've done with them is help them define their requirements to then go on and deliver paid media campaigns and website projects. Now, over the 16 years, as you can imagine, we've seen a heck of a lot of change within our industry, but also within the health sector. And it's really that experience and the insights that we've gathered along the way that I want to share with you today within this talk. So just as we get going, just a few things to be aware of. So we are recording today's session, so you'll get a recording sent to you afterwards. So there's no need to take extensive notes as we go through this. But I have to warn you, it's going to be fairly fast paced, okay? So I've got a fair amount of content to cover today. So if you do miss anything, obviously you can refer back to the recording. Now, towards the end, I'm also going to give you a few kind of bonus tips and trends that we're seeing in addition to the 11 must-haves for your paid media campaigns. And also would love just to get your feedback on this session, which obviously then helps shape future sessions. So you can get us on socials at Webbox Digital and would love your feedback and comments. So without further ado, let's get into the presentation itself, and I'm going to start with the first must-have, which is having a clear understanding of who your customer is. Now, obviously, in any form of marketing, having a clear identity or a clear ICP, which is ideal customer profile, of who your target audience is going to be vital. Okay, so regardless of whether you're doing paid media or print marketing or anything in the middle, it's important that you know who you're speaking to. Now, obviously, this allows us to focus the marketing activity on their pain points, their wants and their needs. And in return, this should lead to you considering how your marketing appeals to those needs. More so, having a clear understanding of your customer will drive the paid media strategy. So at a basic level, there's no point running search activity if you're a really niche brand, as the volume won't be there. If there's a lot of competition, you need to increase your brand's salience to increase the likelihood of a customer choosing you. And just in case you're wondering, this brand salience piece is how easy is it to have your brand recalled when your customer is ready to purchase. So consider the AIDA marketing funnel, which you can see on screen now, and consider the tactics and strategies that you'll employ at each step of that marketing funnel. Because at each step, there should be different tactics, different messaging employed, and the AIDA funnel is a great way to break that down. Now, also having a clear understanding should help you choose the most appropriate channels to actually run paid ads on, hopefully then leading to minimal wasted spend and hopefully maximising the effectiveness. So are your customers being inspired on TikTok or Instagram? Or maybe they're looking for advice on Reddit or Google. Actually, knowing this will help you create appropriate content and use it in the right way. And just the final thing I want to touch on here in terms of this clear understanding of your customer is actually thinking about the call to action, which is going to drive the engagement of that particular person. You need something which is going to resonate with your ICP. So keep in mind as well, ask yourself the question maybe, what is in it for that person? Because actually they often need a reason to be, for it to be compelling for them to actually engage with you. So think about the messaging you use, think about the call to action, the button, what does the button say, so on and so forth, to actually get your ICP to engage with you. Now, the second must-have is focusing on lifetime customer value. So actually knowing your customer's lifetime value will help you understand how much revenue they drive for your organization. So do they visit repeatedly over the course of many years, or maybe is it a sole visit? How much do they typically spend per visit, and what are the required margins to be profitable? These are kind of the questions we would normally ask our clients to actually ascertain more information about the kind of longer term profitability of a paid media campaign. Now, the key difference between most campaigns and what we're talking about is to stop chasing the kind of quick buck. So it's not to kind of focus too much on how many leads did you drive yesterday, or what was the kind of revenue generated yesterday, and focusing on things like cost per acquisition and just driving that down. All those things are important, and we appreciate they're ultra important to budget holders and FDs, but actually we need to take a longer term picture of running a paid media campaign. You also need to consider whether your profit margins allow you to work in this way. So for example, if your customer relationship lasts for 4 years on average, you could make the decision to make a loss in year 1 to acquire that customer. But actually then from years 2, 3 and 4, of course, then the relationship would be profitable. Now, if you're going to do this, make it intentional. It's by design, rather than potentially stakeholders internally wondering why you're potentially losing money in that first year of customer acquisition. Now on the screen, you can just see a quick example of how we would calculate lifetime customer value over a kind of a 4 or 5 year period. And some of the calculations are really important to understand so that we can start to consider whether this is appropriate for your business or not. Now, just a little pro tip is if you've actually calculated this and you're kind of able to do that because you've got the data to hand, then using customer lists will help you create lookalike audiences in Meta. And it informs the algorithm to find new customers that look like the most valuable customers. Okay, so this is a really important thing, because if you can get your foundations right, it is a great way then to scale your paid media campaigns. Now, the third must-have is having clear KPIs. So when we start or potentially inherit a paid media campaign, we always ask our clients, what do you want to achieve with this activity? And of course, this leads then to a conversation around KPIs at every stage of the marketing funnel. And defining KPIs allows the person managing the campaign to optimize with clear objectives in mind. Furthermore, setting clear KPIs will help you to ensure you're not just asking a fish to climb a tree, because of course that's impossible. It's important that we're aligning everyone's expectations within the organization from the outset. And also, just for the record, this shouldn't solely just be about leads. Okay, so when you're thinking about your KPIs, think about other metrics, which could be things like your brand awareness or document downloads, white paper downloads, the time on a website, the engagement rate, and so on. So think just a little bit broader than just the bottom of the funnel, where that might be an inquiry, a lead, a sale, or whatever it might be for your business. Now, a little pro tip is obviously we need to be realistic in doing this, okay? So if you're providing, like care home accommodation or diagnostic manufacturing services, then actually setting the KPI at just pence per lead is just not realistic. We need to understand that actually there needs to be a realism between the KPI and potentially what your service or product is priced at and your margins for all of this to stack stack up. So if you can use historical data and consider the potential revenue, then you can start to work backwards from there. So yeah, just try and be realistic with setting these KPIs, because there's no point setting KPIs that we know we're not going to be able to achieve. And the fourth must-have is all around conversion tracking. So defining a clear conversion reporting method helps us to align expectations, of course, but also campaign optimizations to ensure that appropriate conversion tracking is set up from the outset. So consider things like whether you're going to use the pixel or GA4 data, first user, versus session, versus data-driven attribution, and the length of this look-back window. And all these things are things you can consider internally or with your agency, but hopefully from day one. Now, just for clarity, this look-back window, in case you're not aware of that's kind of how long do you want to look back to consider that paid media had an impact on that conversion? So, for example, it could be if they've clicked on a paid ad within the last week or within the last 30 days or 90 days, you're going to consider that to be a conversion within your reports. Now, there's not necessarily a right or wrong with all of these options on screen, but consistency is key. So actually, if you're going to say GA4 is our central point of truth, then actually it needs to be GA4 for every report that you look at, and it needs to be consistently GA4. You can't really swap and change, because you might get some differences between how you track. Now, why would you kind of put all of this in place? Well, ultimately, this is about aligning stakeholders, because we're all then singing from the same hymn sheet. But it also improves campaign performance and optimization as we all head towards the same goal. Now, another little kind of pro tip for you is what you could do if you're not already is feed all of your data from various paid media channels into a Google Looker Studio dashboard. Now, if you do this, what it means is you're not going between loads of different platforms, pulling reports together and spending a lot of time doing so, because all of that data will automatically feed into one dashboard, and it will give you a central source of truth, and it will ultimately allow you to surface the KPIs that matter most to you, because you build the dashboard and what you want to show on it. It's also really good to share internally, because actually sometimes to bring the business with you and to bring stakeholders with you is actually as important as anything else. So this is a dashboard that can be seen online. You would just get a link to it, and you can share that internally so that others within the business can actually keep an eye on the paid media campaign as well. Now, as I touched on GA4 earlier, just want to draw your attention to this. We do have a GA4 guidance doc, so maybe if you're struggling or not getting the best out of the platform, feel free to use that QR code, and I'll also include it in my follow-up email tomorrow so that you can download that document. That might be helpful for you to use internally. Now, the fifth must-have is all around data policy, okay? And I'm going to split this into two, if I may. So I'm going to think about consent mode initially, and then the second half is enhanced conversions. Now, I'm sure, or I hope, we've all heard of consent mode V2 by now. There was a lot of talk about it earlier this year, as the deadline to implement it passed in March 24. Now, implementing consent mode V2 helps us to bridge that data gap that's arisen since the introduction of things like GDPR, intelligent tracking prevention, and other privacy systems that have come into play over the last couple of years. These cookieless pings help us to model out and track conversions that would otherwise be missed. So if you're not implementing this, it means you're not going to get a complete picture of the performance of your campaign, and you'll likely see underperformance. Now, sticking with this topic, thinking about enhanced conversions, these will help you to ensure that your conversion tracking remains robust and accurate as this removes the reliance on cookies to track conversions and focuses more on the first-party data that you gather, but of course in a privacy-safe manner. So how does it work? Just in case you haven't come across this before. So if a customer or user completes a conversion on your website, you probably receive first-party customer data off the back of that. So things like email address, name, address, phone number, and so on. Now, it's this data that can be captured in your conversion tracking tags. It's then hashed, and then it's sent to Google in its hashed form, and then it's used to enhance your conversion measurement. Now, depending on which type of enhanced conversions that you're using, the hashed data will be used in different ways to improve the measurement and tracking that you have in place. So if you're not using enhanced conversions already, it's a definite must-have for your campaign. Now, we have had some feedback from marketers over the last kind of year or two where they feel like the number of kind of users opting in for tracking is a fraction of the number that are actually visiting their website. And obviously, we're looking on ways to improve that. One little quick tip is you might consider moving your cookies acceptance pop-up to the middle of the screen and making it far more obvious than it might be already. And what we tend to do from a design perspective then is we grey out the perimeter of the website so that the user's attention is drawn to the cookies pop-up. And in doing that, they have to make a choice as to whether they're going to accept or decline cookies before they start navigating around your website. Because research is showing that most people kind of ignore or don't see that cookies pop up when it's just right at the bottom of the screen. So if you're wanting to gather more data, little tip, pop your cookies pop up in the center of the screen. Now, the sixth must-have is all around DSA activity. So this is, if you're running search activity, it's important to capture as much traffic as possible. And unfortunately, there are times where keywords, regardless of their match type, won't capture all of the potential relevant traffic available to you. So introducing dynamic search ads allows you to capture long-tail searches that are relevant to your organization that may otherwise be missed by keywords alone. So there is an opportunity here for you to capture more of the market than potentially some of your competitors are doing. Okay, so we're halfway there. Hope you're still with me. We're going to get into the seventh must-have, which is relating to brand lists. Now, negative keywords are a great way to control the relevancy of the searches your ads appear for. However, due to the blurring of match types, irrelevant brand-related searches are increasingly prevalent. So the best way to control how you appear for these searches is via brand lists. And there are two ways in which you can do that, using inclusions or exclusions, which I've outlined on the slide, and you can see that on your screen. So I won't read it out, but you can see that on the right-hand side. Now, the benefits of having clear brand lists in place include things like controlling the amount of your budget that gets spent on brand versus non-brand keywords. Now, this is a really important factor for our clients because sometimes if they have really good brand awareness, they don't need to drive a lot of budget through branded keywords. So actually having the ability to limit how much budget is put that way is really helpful. It also allows you to monitor brand growth over time. So if you're thinking about increasing brand awareness, it's a great thing to put in place. It also allows you to review KPIs like cost per acquisition on a brand versus non-brand way. So again, just allows you to segment the data a little bit further. And it allows you to separate behaviours or even routes to market between branded and non-branded terms. So as you can probably tell, there's a lot of benefits to putting this in place. And again, we don't see it in many campaigns that we audit. So have a little think about introducing brand lists into your campaign. Now, the eighth must-have is navigating this health in personalised advertising standard. Now, personalised advertising is a powerful tool that improves advertising relevance for users and ultimately increases return on investment for businesses like yourselves. But when employing user behavior or interest data to provide more relevant ad content, it's important to handle that information appropriately. So Google recognizes that certain interests are sensitive and that targeting based on them could negatively impact the user experience. So with this in mind, based obviously on the sensitivities associated with user ad targeting, Google have policy standards for all personalized advertising features that, of course, we need to adhere to. So one of these is going to be the fact that actually remarketing for many health brands and organizations is largely not possible due to advertising policies, as advertising platforms don't want you to take advantage of someone's potential misfortune or personal circumstances. As a result, it is imperative that you have clear KPIs and an understanding of where you're reaching users in the funnel. Now, for a completely different type of health organization, so if you're in maybe healthcare supplements or vitamins or similar product categories, it's important that you highlight the benefits in a non-personal manner and avoid definitive claims. So you want to use terms like it may improve or it can help to improve rather than it will improve. So ensure that you've got disclaimers to highlight that actually impact may vary from person to person. And these are some of the kind of guidelines that, of course, we need to work within to adhere to this policy. Now, the ninth must-have is similar, but it's building upon that point, which is, of course, adherence to the legal requirements where they are appropriate. So obviously this might sound really obvious, but actually without compliance, your ads will be disabled or limited. So it's something that you've just got to get right from day one. And we have even seen campaigns where at day one they're approved, but later on in their journey they get disapproved. So this is something you need to stay on top of. Now, depending on your particular industry within the health sector, you may be limited to what you can advertise due to regulatory requirements. And it's important to adhere to these policies set out by the advertising platforms, which may result in having to be accredited by a professional body or obtain certification for the advertising, from the particular advertising platform. So, for example, you may need to be a registered pharmacy to promote certain products online. These are some of the things that we've seen and I'm sure you've come up against already. Now, the 10th must-have for your paid media campaigns is, of course, visual assets. So this is, of course, one of the most important aspects of a paid media campaign. Now, having good visual creatives means that you can promote your organization to your potential customers more effectively than through words alone. Now, depending on your ideal customer profile, ad creatives and video can open up more relevant channels to help you reach your target audience. We also recommend being consistent with your branding and messages because actually studies have proven that audiences often don't tire of ads, but marketers do. So therefore, don't necessarily refresh your ad creative just for the sake of it. Let's be led by data and not just the fact that we've seen this time and time again because it's for our own company. Now, this is a little tip that we normally give, and I just want to preface it with it's not scientific in any way, but we often kind of just recommend that you look away from your monitor, allow your eyes to reset, and then look back at the screen. And look at your ads and your creative and ask yourself what your attention was drawn to. And actually, if your attention wasn't drawn to anything, of course, there's a problem. But if your attention is drawn to too many things, again, there's a problem. What you're trying to do is get that happy medium, which is ultimately right in the middle, where your eyes are drawn to the key message or to the call to action. So as I say, not a scientific way to do this, but it's just a good kind of sense check as to whether your ad creative is hitting the mark or not. And now for the final, the 11th must-have for your paid ad campaign is the use of custom audiences or topic targeting. Now, if you're running activity beyond search on Google, utilizing custom audiences and topic targeting on your YouTube or display activity can massively help to attract quality, low-cost audiences who are likely to engage with your content and your site. Adding custom audience segments as a part of your demand gen or PMAX audiences will help to ensure you remain as relevant as possible, maximizing your efficiency. Now, these methods will help you reach new audiences beyond the first-party data that you may already hold. Now, we've found these targeting methods have helped scale campaigns and attracted new audiences that we couldn't have reached otherwise. So they're the 11 must-haves. I hope you found those useful, but I'm going to continue with 3 quick bonus tips for you that you can put in place straight away. The first is make sure that you are learning from data regularly and evolving the campaigns to provide the best experience. Allow me to elaborate on this. So often when we audit a campaign, it hasn't been touched in a long time, or maybe the changes that have been made have been really minor, but actually the organization are not happy with the results. It's absolutely imperative that you learn from the data that these campaigns are gathering and regularly evolve the campaign and also your website landing pages to actually get the best out of paid media and to give the user the best experience possible. Now, a little plug for Hotjar. So obviously we've got lots of platforms available to us at the moment, but if you're not using Hotjar, I really encourage you to set up a free account. There are paid plans as well, and you can integrate this onto your website. And what it's going to do is it's going to record user sessions so you can see how people navigate around your website. It's going to give you heat maps, allow you to set up funnels and loads of other really helpful things for you to capture more data to actually make more informed decisions. The second bonus tip is experiment with PMAX. So PMAX or Performance Max can be a really valuable tool to acquire new customers and grow your organization. Building upon the earlier point regarding customer lifetime value, its bid strategies allow you to target based on customer value and solely for new customers, along with re-engaging existing customers. So that being said, we recognize that there's a lot of pros, but there are also some cons, and it's not going to be beneficial for every organization. So for example, if you're operating within a niche or a heavily lead gen orientated business, then this may not be the right kind of strategy for you. However, it's always worth testing. So if you haven't experimented with PMAX, it is absolutely worth experimenting to see what the results could be. Now, my third bonus tip is all around demand gen. Now, this is a great extension of paid social activity. This runs across the Google ecosystem, in particular things like Gmail, YouTube, and the Discover feed. And this helps to introduce your brand to a relevant audience who may be further up that funnel that I talked about earlier. Now, whilst ideal for the top or middle of a funnel, the traffic quality and bid strategies also lend themselves to the bottom of the funnel tactics as well. However, in our experience, the CPA or ROAS doesn't tend to perform as well as other bottom of the funnel activities. So you might want to consider this as more of a top or middle of the funnel tactic. And finally, I want to share a little key trend to watch from this year. So as you can imagine, running a lot of campaigns within the sector, we review a heck of a lot of data. And I want to bring to you today a key trend that we've seen this year. Now, I'm sure you've seen when you do a Google search, these AI overviews, which appear at the top of a Google search page, right? If you haven't, where have you been? I'm sure you have. If you haven't, then maybe just do the same search that I've done here on screen. Go to Google, search pharmaceutical testing, and it just gives you an AI overview right at the top of the screen. Now, statistically, in this research, 12% of searches resulted in having an AI overview at the top of a Google search page. Now, interestingly, for the health sector, out of those 12%, 67% of them were health related. Now, that is a big stat that we need to pay attention to. Google is clearly preferring to show AI overviews, which is content drawn from your website or other sources, and show it on the search engine results page, the SERP, far more in the health sector than any other sector. And you can see from this graph how other sectors perform against the health niche. Now, this is data and research that we and other organisations have undertaken based on a whole load of keywords that we've been tracking. And that would say to us that we need to be conscious of how our campaigns and also our website content is being written, because Google is clearly preferring to scrape health niche websites and surface that data on the SERP far more than any other sector. Really interesting trend, and I'm sure it's going to continue growing, so let's keep an eye on that together. Now, before I wrap up, just a few things. So at Webbox, we've got a ton of resources that we want to share with you. I've put some of them on screen here. So if you're looking at website performance at the moment, or getting the most out of GA4, so on and so forth, then we've got a white paper, a document, a guide, which can help you with that. So I'm going to send you a link to those later, which you can then download at your convenience. The second thing is I've mentioned that we audit a lot of paid media campaigns and also websites, and I just wanted to mention that today. If you're maybe struggling with the performance of your paid media campaign or want to get more out of it, then we're offering a completely free digital audit to help you get the most out of your paid media campaign. Now, this is not using automated tools. This is actually one of our team spending time going through your campaign and uncovering the good, bad, and ugly. So if you'd like us to do that, you can use the QR code on screen. Again, I'll send you a link later, and we'd be more than happy to help you with that. And then finally, as you can imagine, at Webbox, we run a load of these webinars on a range of different topics. So again, put some of the kind of upcoming topics there on screen. If you'd like to join any of our upcoming webinars, you'd be most welcome. You can scan the QR code to head over to our Eventbrite page. Again, I'll send you a link to that afterwards. So for now, I just want to say a massive thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this content. I hope you found it useful. And as I mentioned at the start, I will follow up with a copy of the recording. Feel free to share that internally with your colleagues for others to benefit as well. But for now, massive thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.